All right, welcome back to the Smart and Snark podcast, where real software engineers and real software managers discuss real software. On this podcast, I have Mr. Matt Jaffe, no relation. Jaffe is a world renowned computer scientist and astrophysicist. His role with us today is to try to educate us all on the value of technology and ultimately why we should submit to its authority.
That's been the best one yet, honestly.
Cool. I, as you know, am the myopic middle manager, Jason Allison, whose role is to look good in front of upper management. Score. Okay, this is season 1, episode 3. What's the story? So
I told him to say myopic, by the way. I don't think he knows what it means.
it's my vision, right? My eyes.
Yes.
I know the Greeks. I got it all figured out. So, are you done? You trying to play my role? We've tried this before, and you're just not funny enough.
That's right. Go ahead.
And I got to be honest, I don't have the patience today, right? I don't know what it's like in your house, but I've got 3 boys. They eat a lot, and they eat all the snacks, like chips, pretzels, everything. It is so bad. It's so bad. My wife has to hide snacks in different places. So the first place, as you know, is with the stuff under the sink to wash, right? Because they never go under there. The dish towels, they eventually found that. The latest place to hide snacks is in the Instapot. That is
Nice.
where they hide. So when if you have folks stealing all your snacks at home, highly recommend the Instapot hide. All right,
Do you keep it under pressure while you're hiding things?
always under pressure, my man.
Always under
Always
pressure.
under pressure.
Good, good.
Always be delivering. So today, what's the story? In simplest terms, FeatureBase is the fastest analytics database. Also, the first analytics database built on bitmaps. Our value proposition is low latency queries on fresh data. We power the most demanding AI ML workloads available today. So, full disclosure, I've been at FeatureBase for just over a year. We have transformed not only our brand, but our mission. I can say I'm proud to work here with old faces, old and new. Uh, Kindness aside, Mr. Jaffe, let's talk about all the mistakes made to get to the point where you needed to hire someone like me to come in and fix everything. Help me understand the journey to this moment. What is our story?
Yes, that's a great question, Jason. How did we get to this point? So I've been working um, with some of the same people that are now at FeatureBase since early 2015, and actually the software that is our main product started development even before that. I think 2013 or even 2012. So we were at a different startup that was called Umbel, and it was doing
Umble?
a Umbel,
Like fumble?
Umbel.
Like
Um,
Umble Rooski?
I don't know what
Oh,
that is.
sorry, sports analogy. Again, with the sports analogy, I'm sorry. Please continue.
Anyway, so Umbel, funnily enough, was a marketing platform for sports media and entertainment companies, and so it would allow their marketing teams to jump on and understand their audiences better, and market to them more effectively.
Wait a minute.
What
I
is so funny?
You don't understand sports. I just made the most simplest sports reference, and you worked for a sports marketing company, and you literally just said your objective was to understand your audience. Mistake one. Mistake one, Jaffe. Got it. Check.
So my objective was not to understand my audience. That was our customer's objective.
Oh,
Um, but anyway, didn't you say fumble? Like, what? I don't. I mean,
fumble.
yeah,
You don't get the metaphor?
10-yard line, first down, penalty.
It's pretty close. Pretty.
Yeah, I know plenty of sports. All right, you just back off. Where were we? So, Humble, yeah. So helping people understand their audiences is all about collecting data about the audience and then allowing them to sort of slice and dice it and look at it in different ways, and basically find interesting segments of their audience to market to. And so Umbel was a platform that allowed people to do this. And we had good success early on, and we started bringing on bigger customers that had bigger audiences, which meant more data. And we started to be ingesting quite a lot of data. And the types of analysis that we wanted to provide to our customers were pretty challenging. And we started to stretch the limits of the open source databases that existed at the time. And I think some folks will hear that and look upon it with skepticism, as you should. But we tried a lot of different databases configured in a lot of different ways. I mean, we were trying Elasticsearch and Cassandra and yes, go ahead.
Did you try my dresser? I've heard that if it's run concurrently, it can be quite performant.
Yeah, unfortunately, in 2015, your dresser didn't have nearly so many socks, and so it wasn't a really good option. Uh, but in any case, we got to a point where we didn't think that there was a database available that would suit our needs, and sort of perform our use case at a reasonable price point, without throwing an absurd amount of hardware at it. And this was slightly before my time, but our CEO, who's kind of a madman, gave the team permission to essentially build a distributed database to handle this part of our workload, which is really just not a smart thing to do when you're at a startup, to decide to build a database. But they did, and they kept it very focused on this sort of very core piece of the workload, and it performed amazingly well. Listen, it was a huge pain to operate. It was like you couldn't like restart it without huge amounts of downtime. Blah blah. It had all kinds of problems, but its actual performance on the workload was several orders of magnitude beyond anything we'd had before on less hardware. And I joined about the time that was rolling out to the first sort of beta customers were starting to use that new solution. And as soon as I learned that this company I had just joined had done made the insane decision to develop a database internally, a distributed database no less, with a really sort of interesting and different storage format, I knew that I wanted to work on that thing. And fast forward about a year and a half later, we actually had the opportunity to spin out a new company just around that piece of technology. And so that was the birth of, not FeatureBase, we're not to that one yet, but Pelosa. And so what we did was we open sourced that database technology. We called it Pelosa, and we started developing on it. And that was about 2017 that happened.
Question. What name did you like better, Umbel or Pelosa?
Oh, Pelosa.
Why?
Well, it's just a cool name. It's
Umbel
actually it's a type of sloth.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because when you have a high-performing fast database, a good mascot would be something that moves slow?
Yes. That's the joke.jpg.
That's the joke. Got it. All right. I stepped into that one, apparently. Pelosa is formed. Hilarity ensues. Please continue.
Yeah. So we went down this path of trying to build an open source database for a while, and got quite a few people interested in it. Had some users of the open source product, but we weren't doing a very good job of actually selling the software. And you can imagine the difficulties of trying to sell something you're giving away for free. And of course, all the while you're trying to raise money, and some percentage of VCs kind of get that open source can be very valuable and some don't. And, um, it's just it's kind of a difficult situation. But at the end of the day, the easiest way to raise money is to start bringing in revenue. Um, and so at some point we decided we had to sort of change tactics, and we switched to a closed source model. And at the same time, or around the same time, we renamed the company to Molecula. There it is. Yeah. So you joined during the Molecula
Yes, sir.
phase of things. Yeah. That must have
About
been
like
like right before.
about
Yeah.
a year, yeah. So end of 21, started 22.
Yeah. So Molecula actually worked out not too badly. We signed up some enterprise customers, got some revenue going. Um, things were okay. But it was around the same time that Snowflake really blew up. And so, for those of you who don't know, Snowflake is a hosted cloud database that's super scalable and super easy to use and good for analytics. Um, and the I think the reason that they kind of blew up is they just made it really easy to do SQL at scale. And the sort of fundamental innovation that they had was separating storage from compute. So you can have all your data stored and have absolutely no compute attached to it, which is a really nice property, especially for very spiky workloads and that kind of thing. So Snowflake kind of blew up, and VCs are looking at who's going to be the next Snowflake, what's going to be the next Snowflake, and at the same time, the sort of the venture capitalist mindset set shifted to open source being very important again, and people wanting you to have an open source component to your offering, and the reason that open source was now more viable was because if you have a database, a cloud product, people people want to be able to use and see your code and kind of use your database in open source. But a lot of the big buyers don't want to manage the software themselves. Managing a database is a lot of work. It's very hard. You want to just be able to spin something up and kind of have it managed for you. So having a cloud platform is kind of a really nice moat to be able to provide value on top of an open source solution. So long story short, we changed the name of the company again because Molecula didn't really mean anything. At some point, we had some designs on kind of going into the um, bioinformatics space, and so that name was kind of a nod to that. But we decided we needed to sort of double down on being an analytics database, that was positioned to power sort of the next generation of analytics, right? Which is all about powering AI and machine learning workloads. So we changed the name to FeatureBase, and we open sourced the bulk of the database code after a couple years of closed source development. And around the same time, we started building a cloud platform to sort of pursue this overall strategy.
Yeah, I haven't been around for all of that. I do believe in the limited time I've been here, the I believe the ability to download the database capabilities is and being able to have it as a service or a password, you want to call it in the cloud, is a differentiator, right? So you can try things out locally, run small queries, compile, make changes, whatever you want. Also, there's a trial available online to try it out there. But for your more committed, larger workloads, the cloud-based solution for everybody. I mean, there's only going to be more cloud, right? There's going to be less, physical brick and mortar type infrastructure. Makes it very, very easy to lend itself to companies looking to try things out and try different workloads. Because to your point, the reason that the database was built was for exercising queries that just weren't performant enough on existing technologies. So it sounds like that's really important about the solution.
Yeah, definitely. I think the open source part, I think, gives developers a lot of, well, developers and companies, just kind of a lot of the warm and fuzzies, because it's kind of a fallback, right? If you choose this software and you're investing in it, you want to know that it's going to be around for a while. And if it's open source and you can you can get in there and you can look at the code, you can run it locally, you kind of you have a fallback plan. Even if something happens to the company or something goes horribly wrong, you you still have the whole code base you can look at. You could, in theory, run it yourself if you needed to. If it was like a really critical part of your infrastructure. So you're not just totally left, hanging out, to dry if something goes horribly wrong.
Yeah,
And you, yeah.
yeah. I'm also in the camp. I mean, this doesn't get talked about a lot, but supply chain. If you have a black box software solution that you don't understand the inner workings of, it's easily susceptible to supply chain attacks where malware can get introduced to the black box and you don't even know it's there. Well, if you have an open source solution, all of that information is available online and there's nothing being hidden there. And I believe supply chain is really a detriment to a lot of software development and company success these days.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you're using software, well, if you're using software, there are bugs in it, there are security holes in it. That's just full stop. But if you're
Findings,
using,
security
huh?
findings.
Yes, findings, of course. Thank you, middle manager. Uh, but if you're using software that you don't have any visibility into, and that a limited set of people do have visibility into, it's almost guaranteed that there are more bugs, right? Like we have had customers point out issues, right? Like in like, oh, you're importing this library that's an older version, or things like that. And now we have automated scanning for a lot of that stuff. But more eyes on software is better for all kinds of reasons, and for security, yeah, definitely a big part of that.
So I'm a listener right now, Mr. Matt Jaffe. I work at a startup, and I'm trying to take a product to the next step. But what advice do you have for me as a listener, and what kind of experiences can you share in that journey to help impression young software engineers?
Ooh, for young software engineers specifically, I mean, just keep doing stuff. Don't be afraid to do stuff, right? Don't be afraid um, to try things, to make changes. That's It's just the only way to move forward. I think being kind of fearless in your approach, and being willing to learn new things, and dive into problems when you see them, and instead of just kind of working around them or brushing them under the rug. uh, there's opportunities every day, I guarantee you, to learn something interesting and to make your product better. um, and I think it's important to take those opportunities, even when there's a lot of unknowns.
Now let's kind of turn that coin on its side. I'm an executive at a startup, and I'm trying to cross the chasm, as you will. What advice do you have for executives who are trying to get their product to the next level with what experiences you've had?
I think you need to be very brutally honest with yourself, and that's sometimes impossible to do. You need to find people who you trust to be brutally honest with you, and you need to listen to them very carefully. Because usually it's not that complicated. Usually, like, the signs are there that something's not working. Um, and but as a founder, or as the CEO or leader of a startup, you have to sort of have this very, like, deep seated, almost maniacal belief in what you're doing. And so it's hard to have that, and at the same time be ready to make a pivot if you actually do need to pivot. And so finding that balance is probably one of the most difficult skills. But I would say, having the gut check, having the people who will be very honest with you, and then knowing when to listen to those people is probably one of the most important things.
Yeah, I absolutely subscribe to the theory of brutal honesty, and I gotta say, Jaffe,
Here we go.
five,
Here it comes.
the 5 o'clock shadow, right, it is not a look for you. I mean, it is 5 o'clock out my way, but I mean, just shave once in a while, like standard, grooming. It'll, maybe people want to hang out with you in your room and and get to know you a little bit, but that look, honestly, it's brutal.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna grow it out just for you, buddy.
So that's a pretty interesting story. That's a long one, not typical for startups, and that's quite a journey that you've been on for a while here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been 8 years, but the whole time it's been interesting, and I've certainly learned a lot. So I don't have any intention of stopping. And of course, now with you on board, the charts can only go up, right?
Well, we're definitely going to look the part. The myopic middle manager, I focus on just a couple little things here, and no fit check today, but I'm not sure it's needed.
Yeah, well, you talked about your snacking habits, so I figured that was a pretty good check in.
Oh, great.
Um,
There are Cheetos somewhere in this house. There's somewhere, I just haven't found them. And I think I saw the is it the spicy jalapeno Cheez-Its? They're somewhere too. And I haven't found them yet. So there must be a new spot. Maybe another one was the basket where you keep the dog towels in for the wet dog coming in the house. Put those under a couple towels into the good hiding spot.
all right. Well, hopefully we gave the listeners a nice sort of background on kind of where we're coming from. Maybe when we completely run out of ideas, we can dive into your history and where you've been before. But I don't know, that sounds pretty boring. But yeah, hopefully this is good context, so people know where we're coming from, and I look forward to the next one.
Thanks, everybody.
See you later.